Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're bringing you a Tiny Epic preview of...
Tiny Epic Vikings?
Tiny Epic
Vikings?
Vikings from
Vikings?
Gamelin Games. This is another iteration in their series of Tiny Epic genre games. And if you're not familiar with the Tiny Epic series, it really is a space that you should start exploring because they have... A small space that you should start exploring. In accessible little game boxes, they pack a massive punch and have developed what I would argue is a cult following.
Yeah, no, they have a rabid fan base.
Such a dedicated fan base that are, absolutely insane and absolutely amazing with the way that they will spam and push and support and just be there for the Tiny Epic projects. And all the reason is there for them to be so. Because in a tiny little box... Gamelin Games has consistently packed a heavy punch with interesting and unique mechanics from a variety of different genres of the board gaming space. You have tableau building, you have production, you have engine building, you have dice rolling, you have chaos, and this is going to be one of those. This is going to be focused on the area control and the drafting genre. In this video, we're going to break down what exactly this game is, why you should be interested in it, and a few of the things that we think make it stand out in the Tiny Epic series that'll add something different or possibly not add something different to your collection, depending on if this is the right game for you and your gaming group. Devin, let's set up
what this game
drafting does. What drafting and area control is first, because that is the definition of what this game is.
Okay, so drafting this is a tableau building game where you have your actions that you based off of the cards that you do, and as you play more cards, you open yourself up to more chained combinations of future cards that you play. But the way that you start that off is at the beginning of each round. There's 3 rounds in a game of Tiny Epic Vikings. And in those 3 rounds, you start off with successively growing number of cards. You might start off with 4 cards, and then each card has a attack value if you decide to make an attack and try to claim a card, and then it's got a main action and a bonus action. The main action is always going to take place if you're able to, and then the bonus action is dependent on what else is in the tableau. So
here
if you have the card that matches it,
a tableau of a sequence of runes played out towards the end of the gameplay session that we have here on the channel as well, and this shows that you'll be able to count towards 3 orange and 1 blue and 2 pink, triggering more powerful abilities. Honestly, some of these are pretty major too, like moving a settlement across an island from one island to another takes
huge.
4 blue abilities to do that. Now, I'm getting into the weeds, so let me pull back.
And
drafting, as a core concept, is where, like Devin was saying, you have a hand of cards, and you're going to be...
So, what we were describing was the tableau building, and the reason why we were bringing that up
is because... describing the tableau building.
Well, I was describing the tableau building.
I was going straight for the draft.
No, you were talking about the tableau building with the moving the settlement, but the reason why that's important is because when you have the cards, you're making decisions on which one to grab before passing it on, and those decisions are important based off of if you need a particular action to happen, or if you need a particular action and then you want to try to chain it together with the bonus action. And so when you're taking a card, you might need to say, well, the next card I need to take needs to have the particular rune that can help me increase my action potential.
Devin's also getting into the weeds. What I was looking for is drafting as a core mechanic is just a hand of cards where you're making a decision about what's going to benefit you the most in this sequence or tableau that we're building. You select that, and you pass the cards over to the side. Along with that, the area control nature of this game is going to be this little map over here. You'll be spawning settlements, moving ships, producing and, just distributing people across the land, and fighting for control. Now, fighting in this game is abstracted. It's a Viking game, so you think about raiding and pillaging and war, but you'll have 2 areas of competition. One is going to be the area control on these islands. These islands will establish control for different runes, which will be these. In this game, it's a prototype, so they're just circles. I'm sure they'll be much fancier in the actual production copy. But you'll be fighting for control by either surmounting the other people's control markers, which are scored based off ships, shrines, or chapels, or whatever it is, and meeples, or just by surmounting their meeple count there, which will allow you to murder and slay some of their other meeples. So, the second area you're going to be fighting for area control.
No, you go.
Is going to be with the cards that are going to be around the outside of the board. Those cards deal with runes that are important for endgame scoring. So let me pull it back just a little bit. Devin, set up what this game is.
So, Tiny Epic Vikings is a combination of, as Jesse has mentioned, area control, tableau building, card drafting to where you set yourself up for your tableau building, but also a combination of influence gain with these gods over here. So we currently have our setup of 3 gods that we've got.
They're going to have so many different gods.
Yeah, there's going to be different ones.
I heard rumor tell a duck was one of them.
Oh, a duck.
Definitely not.
And each god has their own ability that is used whenever somebody loses a combat but has, appealed to those gods. Mm-hmm. And then you also have the ability to increase the influence or strength of those gods over the course of the game. The influence gain here is important because that relates to several different things that's going on. It relates to the influence markers or the control markers whenever you take a territory that matches that color or that rune type. And then it also relates to the value of these set collection cards that you have here. And these are what you battle for. They give you temporary bonuses of resources, and they give you end-game bonuses relating to the power of those gods.
I mean, at the heart and soul of this game is going to be victory points.
Yes.
But you're scoring victory points, just like Devin said, from 2 core conditions. And you can see on the bottom of the chart here, controlling islands and controlling these runic cards.
And this tiered scoring value is actually based off of the strength of each of the gods.
Yeah. So the core flow of the game is going to go across 3 rounds. You're going to start with 4 cards, then the second round 5 cards, the third round and the last round 6 cards. You'll all play 1 card per turn, and you can choose on your turn to either take the basic actions of the card that you have, or place the card face down to engage in a battle. If you engage in a battle, you'll draw one of these cards and you'll wait to see if opponents join in the competition. If they do and they lose, they'll get the benefit of the god that they were serving. If they do and they win, you will end up
losing that card.
And they will
Which you don't want.
They will take some endgame scoring. Now, all of our player boards are going to be pretty straightforward. You're going to be able to craft and build things like meeples that spawn out onto the islands to establish control and maneuver themselves around. They're the most mobile unit by far. You'll be doing that by using a resource of food. You'll be able to harbor and raid, pillage different towns that are around the area. You'll be using your resource of iron to do that. And you'll be using your resource of food to go ahead and build extra boats that give you more distribution. They give you more distribution, and chapels that give you stronger area control. And that'll really help dominate a location or dominate an island. So that's the core concept here. I mean, it's not a heavy game. It's highly approachable with a really kind of...
It's not a heavy game. It's a game that feels like it should be more expansive than they've managed to pack it in.
I just don't understand where all the girth comes from.
You've said girth more times than I've ever heard you say girth before.
Devin, could you please tell me why people should be, like, Tiny Epic collectors, why should they be compelled by this? What is this doing unique?
So, this is the first Tiny Epic game I've played. I own Tiny Epic Galaxies.
Great, you're not prepared to answer that question.
No, I am. And I think because this is the type of game that I agree with certain criticisms of, where people might say, it packs a big experience into a small box, and so it begs the question, if you have...
Devin! Tell me that's not incredible!
That is incredible. I'm really impressed. I'm impressed by that. I don't know if I'm impressed by the fact that the box is small enough to fit in your pocket, or your pocket is big enough to fit the box.
No, this can be labeled pocket size, you were saying.
It could say pocket size. But what I'm saying is that one of the critiques of this genre, this series, is that if the game is robust enough to satisfy people who might have typically experience with bigger games,
like girthy
why
games.
not just have a bigger game?
Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't need that. You can, because like you said, it's portable, it's accessible. You can take it wherever you want. It's a micro or a micro small box game. You can take to different places.
I would travel with this before I would ever travel with Blood Rage.
Yeah.
And if you're going to give me the option to not play a drafting area control game, or travel with this and play a drafting area control game, this is great. It really is. It really is super compelling to have out here on the table. The thing for me that I'm really excited about, that people watching at this point need to go check the link at the top of the video description, take a look at what they're doing over the Kickstarter page. Because there's a lot here, but honestly, I feel like they've held back, 50, 60% of the content.
There's a decent amount of stuff that I'm curious to see how much it grows, because
and historically they've been launching Tiny Epic games with at least 1 or 2 module expansions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this is where it grows to.
Yeah.
Because, we had a relatively close game. I don't know who this loser was, but the rest of the people, that was me, and the rest of the people had a really close game. And I think once you've played this once or twice, and you understand the systems at play, and you recognize the value of like when to have a combat and when to try to push for a accelerated or enhanced action, you can really get into the nitty-gritty of the strategy, which only compels me more with the idea of if there are expansions, how much does that add to the asymmetry, to the player abilities, to the versatility of it? What element and nuances are added into this? And also, what other gods?
So at the heart and soul of this, the final crescendo that we want to talk about, if you're into the Tiny Epic series, I don't think we need to convince you much beyond this to have the conversation. 12 to 13,000 people were watching the launch of this campaign when it went live today. I don't really need to talk to
Really? Gosh, that's crazy.
You're gonna love this game. And I'm talking from the standpoint of, like, half of the Tiny Epic games I think are good but not right for me.
Yeah.
And then the other half are really good, but don't get off the shelf very much.
Yeah.
This is right up there when it comes to Tiny Epic Dungeons, that I thought was really lovely, a great adaptation of the dungeon crawl experience. Tiny Epic Galaxies, the first one that I ever played, that's
the one that I have in my house.
Hyper compelling. This is a distillation of the drafting area control genre, two of my favorite genres, and I think they've done it really, really well.
I think the piece that's the most appealing about a game like this is when you get into the small box realm, you naturally come to a discussion of you don't feel like you ever need to get rid of it because it's so small it earns its space in your collection.
Yep.
And this packs,
easy.
It's the first game in the series I've played, and I felt like it packed such a nice little punch.
For the size that it is.
For the size, and we did a gameplay, but on second or third play, we would play so much faster, knowing the game
We could knock this out about 45 minutes, easily.
Which I think at 45 minutes, a game now just deserves it.
Let's go ahead and be fair to the audience who are watching at this point, because at this point they're sold. My two biggest concerns or criticisms of Tiny Epic Vikings: I don't think it functions well at 2-player. And that's not necessarily a problem with this game, but it's more a problem with the genre as a whole. This drafting area control system gets so debuffed and the chaos gets so pulled out of it when you're just playing a straight 2-player game. I'd go for something like Caesar or Blitzkrieg over something like this. Now, at 3 and 4 players, depending on how much chaos you want, super compelling. The other thing that for me is going to be a red flag is the question, are they adding some degree of variability or asymmetry outside of the god powers? Because if they aren't, which it just makes sense that they would, but if they aren't, based on the prototype that we have right now, I am concerned that it gets a little old after a little bit. And I'd play with this I'd play with this to introduce my game group to the drafting, or anytime I traveled, and then I would graduate to something like Inish, like Cyclades, like Blood Rage.
In defense of what games like this function as and how valuable they are, like,
it's cool that
does it need to be more than that?
Not necessarily.
Like, I think this game can stand on its own as a game that you can comfortably, if you're like, I'm going to go to this location and I have no clue what we're going to do there, but I'm going to very comfortably take Tiny Epic Vikings in my pocket and then bring it with me. Are you ever going to be upset that you're playing it?
I played this for the first time in a hotel lobby on one of their little, like, side tables.
Yeah.
So approachable.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be a preview. Thank you so much for watching. Whatever the case.
Whatever you do,
remember to do the important thing.
Get out there and play some... Did I say this last word?
Tiny Epic Prototypes.
Tiny Epic Prototypes.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.